Hello, everybody. How are you today? It's Trish Carr with another episode of Be Real, Get Real with Women's Prosperity Network. And I'm so glad that you're here because today I'm going to introduce you to an amazing woman, always amazing women, especially in this Women's History Month. I'm so lucky that I get to speak to women who are making history as we speak. And my guest today is truly doing that. So, I'm going to be sharing, we're going to be just having a quick conversation. We'll be on for about 15 minutes or so. Stick with us. And here's the thing, we do be real, get real, because there are so many people, because of social media, because of all of the pressures that we have, so many of us are, everything's great and life is good. And I'm so happy when in behind the scenes, we're all like little ducks trying to keep our feet going, right? So it's about being real and being yourself. When you can be yourself, your authentic self, the real you, and you can get real, what's happening in your world and in your life, you can really achieve the results that you want because you're being authentic. You know, we do business with people. We don't do business with businesses. We do business with people. So this is just a peek inside one of the many beautiful women who are part of this community that is Women's Prosperity Network. And I hope hearing this guest of mine's story, you'll be able to resonate yourself and learn a few things along the way. So let me tell you about my guest today. And hey, before I do that, would you do me a favor? See that little button that says share? Just click on that share button and share this to your own page so that others can learn from you about how we can be the best that we can be. So here, I put my glasses on because I'm going to go over and give you a quick introduction of my guest, and then we're going to get right into it. So Dr. Cindy Tsai, doctor, yes, a board certified physician turned entrepreneur, mindfulness teacher, speaker, and life coach. And we're going to get into why Dr. Cindy is no longer practicing as a board certified physician and instead is working individually with people, mind body connection. It's really cool what she's done. Her mission is to help unfulfilled high achievers, that's you, get off autopilot and become inspiring success stories, living your best life with ease. Isn't that what we want? Yes. She went to Johns Hopkins University. She got her BA and MS from there, and MD from Geisel School at Dartmouth. So that's like an Ivy League we're talking about. This woman is smart. So as a physician, I'm going to get into this. So I'm not going to really talk about what happened, but there were things that just happened as a physician that she was like, you know, I could be better doing what I prefer to do than just being a physician. So let me just introduce and bring her right on, Dr. Cindy Tsai. Welcome, Dr. Cindy.
Hi, Trish. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad that you are. Well, let me start with that because let's start with the why you decided to go into coaching and teaching and speaking instead of being, you know, I'm an MD, come in and see me, here's your prescription. Like, what happened for you? You went through all of this schooling, you like a long time to be a doctor. And yet here you are taking your energy and your education in a different direction. So what happened?
Yes. So for me, I was always this introverted, shy perfectionist. And I'm the youngest of four daughters, and there's a big age gap in between. And it's because my parents didn't plan to have me. So from a young age, I had this belief that I wasn't wanted or enough as I was. And I thought I had to be perfect in order to be liked and accepted. I would organize my stuffed animals from small to big, keep my room super clean, like do all the right things. And so I followed in my dad's footsteps to become a doctor because I was always passionate about health and wellness, and I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
And worked really hard attending all the top schools. And I thought that becoming a physician was my whole future, that once I finally finished training, that I would be able to relax and live with ease, be successful, check off the boxes. And unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. I mean, yes, I did go through all my training very smoothly. And once I started practicing, I realized that I was often getting frustrated when patients came in with pains and ailments that came from other parts of their life that they weren't paying attention to. And I really wanted to do more than just prescribe medications as a Band-Aid. And as a physician, I saw firsthand the impacts of chronic stress on your body. And so really wanted to do more. And I felt stuck because I thought that this was going to be my life and that this was how I could help people. But I felt like there was still something missing. And I realized that I was not fully fulfilled. I wasn't fully happy. And I got sick. And I knew that my body was sending me a message. And so thankfully, I came across coaching a couple of years back. And through coaching, learned so many tools and skills to transcend the circumstances and really transform my whole mindset and perspective. And was able to develop a more comprehensive, holistic approach to healing. And so it really inspired me to become a coach, to serve as a guide for others, especially other high achievers, because I know that everyone is here for a reason and they all have their own individual gifts to share. But so often we have lost connection with who we really are. And we end up doing things out of obligation or because it's what's expected of us, because we're so conditioned to look for achievement, as opposed to really staying connected to who you are. So I'm really grateful to be on this journey and to be able to transition and to help people in this way.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy that you have too, because, it's not easy to find a doctor who takes everything into consideration. So the fact that you have this whole broad everything you'd be the type of person that people can, when you coach with Dr. Cindy, you're getting everything. You're getting the mind-body connection. You're getting looking underneath at what's going on and how it's affecting you. But, one of the things I want to ask, because you were saying that your father was a physician. Mm-hmm. And for so many of us, when we're growing up, we decide early on what we're going to be. And it's really a lot of times to make other people happy. My parents would be so happy if I became a physician. Did it ever occur to you to be something else, or was it, this is what I'm going to do?
I think there was a small voice along the way, always, that was questioning, do I really want to be a doctor? But I think that as I continue to progress, and medical training is so many years, and you don't just stumble into medical school, right? You have to do a lot of extracurriculars, study super hard, really be on top of your game and do all these interviews and tests and all these things. And so I think that what's interesting is I think I started on this path, and that high achiever in me was very determined and committed. And as you continue on, you're one step closer. You start to see light at the end of the tunnel, and you just keep going. And that's what I think a lot of people tend to do as well, because we have a tendency as humans to go on autopilot, right? Because it's familiar, it's comfortable, and it feels easy and safe to our brains from a physiological biological perspective. And so I think that unless you take the time to pause, to reflect, or for something to happen, for me, definitely when I got sick, that was a wake-up call. And I know that for so many patients I've seen, they also oftentimes have to go through some type of trauma, some type of experience that really shocks their system, right? And my wish is that people don't have to do that, right? You don't have to suffer all of that in order to finally change things, because at that point, you've already undergone so much, right? And yes, of course, you can heal and get better, but wouldn't it be so much easier to do it when things are fine?
It
So
would
much
be.
less stress.
It would be so much easier.
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about having a coach is it really makes you stop and pay attention. Even so, I know for me, I've always had someone in my coaching corner. Always have a coach, and I don't stop. Like I'm going, going, going. And I know most of you watching and most of you participating today are going, I am going all the time, right? I have two settings, on and off, right? Nothing in between. But what I find is that when I just talk to my coach about what's happening just in general, she'll go, oh, there it was again. Did you notice that you eschewed help? So one of my biggest thing is my husband will offer to do something for me. And I guess I don't know why, and people will offer to do something for me. And I say, oh, no, 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 I can handle it. Why do I do that? Right? Why do I do that? And not only am I doing that thinking I'm doing them a favor, I don't want to put them out, but I'm pushing them away. So she helps me to see, okay, so there it is. There you were doing it again. So now let's be more aware of that. And just being more aware of it helps me to move things forward. So I know having somebody in your corner like a coach is such an important thing, not just because you're feeling, you don't have to be broken to get better. Right? That's the thing. You can get better.
Yeah, and I love that you shared the example.
Yeah. So, one of the things
I was going to say, I love the example of receiving help and support. And so often as women, it's very hard to receive. And especially a lot of the clients I work with.
Crazy. Why is it hard?
Yeah, they want to be great at everything professionally, personally. They think they have to be the perfect mom, wife, career woman, everything. And all that does is really add so much stress and pressure on yourself. And it actually causes stress on your body, right? It increases your stress response, cortisol, which leads to various downstream impacts on your physical and mental health, like anxiety, pain, and all these things, hormonal imbalances. But the one thing I wanted to bring up was the idea to think about, as opposed to you needing to do everything, but actually believing that people are there to support you and people want to support you, and that it's so important to allow them to do that and to be in a state to receive. Because a lot of times when you're not able to receive and you keep giving, 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 it comes from a place of lack and scarcity. And so versus when you're able to sit and receive, you trust that there's a lot there for you, and really being in that state of gratitude and abundance. So I wanted to put that in there just to follow up to that example.
I love that. I never thought about it coming from lack and scarcity. It's interesting. Well, one of the things you mentioned when we were talking about this conversation was the whole perfectionist thing. So you say that you were the kid that was a surprise, right? You were the child they didn't expect. And my sister is also the child that my mother never expected. And there was always a family joke about it. Oh, we don't know where you came from. We thought you were a tumor, right? And it never occurred to me until I was an adult what kind of language you're saying to a child that you weren't expected. And so it leaves you feeling like you're saying, having to be perfect, having to make sure you do everything right, having to follow in the footsteps of your parents. Like you suffered from that, yes?
Yes. Well, I don't think I necessarily had the awareness of the impact it had, right? And it's not until the recent years when I've really dove in to do this work and healing on myself, that I recognize the impact that these words and experiences have. And I think that even though, yes, I trust that we're always trying our best, but as kids, we really don't know any better, right? We absorb everything. We're sponges. And so it's fascinating as I do a lot of reflection, thinking about, wow, yeah, that definitely impacted, like the language, your surrounding, everything makes such an impact on your development.
So how did you get over being a perfectionist?
Well, I think
that's what you all want to hear, right? How do I get over being a perfectionist? How do I get over having to be the good girl? How do I get over being the people pleaser? That's the question, right?
yeah. Well, I think it's a work in progress. We're all here on our own journeys. And I think a big part is really remembering that you are enough right now. Because when you really come from a place of fullness and trust and confidence, that gives you so much more grounding. A lot of times I think about when I'm being a perfectionist, when I'm afraid of making a mistake, afraid of being judged, I'm already rejecting and judging myself. And versus when you're able to know that you have your own back, no matter what, you can put things out there and people may or may not like it, but it's okay because you're good. You're good. And I want to relay this back to when this podcast specifically and talking about being authentic and being real, right? And I think a lot of times we have an idea of what we look like. And I love this quote of, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I'm who you think I think you are. I am who I think you think I am. And so basically, it all comes down to perception. I know it's a little bit confusing. I might need to repeat it. But basically, it comes down to,
I think I am who you think I am.
yeah, like it basically comes down to perception, right? And if you're able to really know who you are and stay connected, it doesn't matter so much what others are going to respond, like how they're going to respond, right? Because you're good. If they like you, if they don't like you, you're still in a good place yourself. A lot of times I think with people pleasing, there's a lot of fear of rejection, right? And one thing I share with clients is helping them to develop the skill of being able to feel any feeling. Because imagine if you were not afraid of feeling anxious, rejected, embarrassed, guilty, sad, all of those feelings, you would be unstoppable, right? And so oftentimes we hold ourselves back, we stay in our comfort zone because we're afraid of something that's going to happen. And when we do that, we're actually not being present, right? We're in our brains, we're worried about what's going to happen in the past, what's going to come in the future. And we miss out on everything that's going on in the present where life is actually happening. So that's, a couple tips just right off my mind, but I'm happy to talk more with anyone.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's a process because when you're brought up thinking that you have to be perfect in order to be loved and accepted, and then you're an adult and you realize, well, this is dumb. Why do I feel this way? And you get some assistance with working through that. It's a process. And I know one of the things you have coming up in April is your new book is coming out, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
I'm super excited. So in this book, it's a self-help book based in mindfulness because my work is built on the research-backed foundations of mindfulness. And it basically outlines my approach and strategy to help people go from being unfulfilled high achievers to inspiring success stories. And what I love about that is that you get to define how you want your story to look like. And through developing 3 pillars that I outline in my book. So, number one is developing a strong sense of calm, where you are regulating your nervous system, right? Being able to have your own sense of safety. Number two is the pillar of confidence, where you have that strong sense of self belief. And part of it is also learning to let go of your past habits and patterns and beliefs that aren't serving you and rewiring your brain for better beliefs instead. And number three is the pillar of curiosity, where you take that beginner's mind and find you're getting in touch with creativity and fun and that vision, that higher self, and connected to your deeper purpose. And I think with 3 pillars really strengthened, then you can really stay connected to who you are and find that inner compass to become that inspiring success story that I know you're meant to be. So look out for that. It's coming soon. I'm so excited.
I love it. And like I said, it's a process. And we spend, there's so many books on children's growth and what happens when you're 2 and what happens when you're 4 and what happens when you're 12. But really, there's stuff out there, but we spend so much time juggling our roles, taking care of our kids, taking care of our spouses or partners, taking care of our households, building our businesses, that the person that gets the least amount of attention is us. Yet, when we're the best that we can be, all of those other things are the best that they can be. So, for any of you who are listening and watching us today, think about taking care of you and doing it with someone who can see what you can't see. And that's the reason I always have a coach, is somebody can see what I just can't see. And these revelations that happen, such as I don't accept help. It's not easy for me to accept help. This has been an ongoing thing in my life. I thought I had it licked in my 30s, but I didn't, right? I thought, and I get a little, it's sort of like, 5 steps forward and 1 step back, 5 steps forward and 1 step back. And it's, the whole perfectionist thing, the having to be perfect, the people pleaser, those are things that we've been living with our whole lives. And unless we take the time to look at how can I get to my authentic self? Who am I? Why am I defined by all these roles? When really there's more to me than that. When we can be fulfilled, when we can really be in touch with who we are, everything around us is better. Our children, our families, our businesses. So, Dr. Cindy, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to the new book. Thanks for sharing your story. One of the things that we talked about earlier was that you were born in Taiwan, and my sister-in-law too is born in Taiwan, and there's such a familial family bond there that people pleasing and that wanting to be the good girl seems to be even more elevated. But I don't think so. I think that this is something that we all share. Don't you see? You see that. It doesn't matter what your nationality, what your background, where you were born. Many of us have that I'm not good enough thing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty universal. And when I look back to my experiences, I think it's about so I grew up in Taiwan. I was born in Vancouver, grew up in Taiwan, went to an American school. So I was exposed to both Western and Eastern cultures growing up. But primarily at home, we spoke Mandarin, exposed to the Chinese culture. And I think there was such an emphasis on achievement that as a child, it made you feel like unless I achieve certain things, I won't be accepted or appreciated or loved. And that, I think, is what happens. It's almost like conditional love, right? As opposed to unconditional love. And so I think a big part of the journey is finding your way back to that and offering the unconditional love to yourself. As you talk about self-care and the importance of that, I think so important is really developing that sense of trust and belief in yourself that no matter what, and you could go lay on a beach or you could work 50 hours in your business. Either way, you're enough, right? We have a sense that we have to be super busy or super productive to prove something, to be enough. And I want people to know that you're enough right now. Okay. Like no matter what, really believe and own that so that you can really stay connected to who you really are and be able to serve and share your gifts in this way. Thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Cindy, for being with us today. I so appreciate this conversation around perfectionism, asking for help and accepting it, being the good girl. Thank you for sharing your truth around that and how it affected you growing up. And most of all, thank you for taking your knowledge of medicine and putting it out there and mixing the whole thing together in your coaching. So I know people can go to your website. Is there anything you want them to look for in particular when they go to your website?
So I have a lot of free resources on there. So feel free to peruse and connect with me on social media. I'm at Cindy Tsai MD. I share a lot of valuable content on social media and look forward to connecting and hearing from any of you and helping and supporting your journey. Thank you.
Wonderful. It's a pleasure. Really, it's been a pleasure. Thank you all for being with us today. And thank you, Dr. Cindy, for all that you do and all that you are in this world. We appreciate you. We'll see you again next week with another episode of Be Real, Get Real, because when we do business with people, we're doing business with people, and it's about being real and being yourself. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for sharing. And thank you, Dr. Cindy, for being here. Bye, everybody. See you next time.